Los Angeles city leaders are urging protesters to remain peaceful. As I said, Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom have said so publicly many times over many days. But there's a warning today from Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman. It reads in part, "I want to make it crystal clear. You can hurl insults at whoever you want. However, if you hurl cinder blocks, light vehicles on fire, destroy property, and assault law enforcement officers, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law." Well, DA Nathan Hochman joins me now. Thanks so much for being here. So that's a pretty stern warning. Do you think this will give protesters pause as we see them gathering again right now in this live shot out on the streets of Los Angeles tonight?
I think it will act to actually pause at least some of them. It's not going to pause the people who are there specifically to commit these crimes. And thankfully, we've been able to estimate a relatively small percentage of the protesters out there. But as far as the other ones joining them in these criminal acts, that's what the warning shot was out there to accomplish. To basically say to them up front, look, if you want to go ahead and peacefully protest and assemble, we will fiercely defend that right. But if you want to go ahead and cross the line into illegal conduct, we will equally fiercely enforce the law.
Have you seen any sign, many times protests like this that start organically among American citizens who might disagree with something that's being done? We've seen it on both the left and on the right. We've seen these groups infiltrated by professional actors, whether it's Antifa on the left or Proud Boys who've infiltrated protests on the right. Are you seeing any sign of these professional agitators out there who are leading the way in this violence?
What we're going to find out in the next couple of days is the over 4 dozen people who've been arrested. We're going to be looking at whether or not they've done this before and pull all their criminal records. If it turns out that they have done this before, then we'll have more intel on the type of people who are actually committing the worst criminal actions. But we've seen in the last several days, people just using this as an opportunity to break into stores, whether it was an Arco Mini Mart, other types of stores, just to rob and loot them. We've seen people use this as an excuse to vandalize property. Again, having nothing necessarily to do with a legitimate protest, they're just taking advantage of a legitimate protest for their own illegitimate reasons.
Right, we saw that. We saw that with the George Floyd protests everywhere. People looting Louis Vuitton because nobody was thinking about George Floyd, and they just wanted a Louis Vuitton purse. Are you seeing a lot of that happening right now, or just sporadic?
I wouldn't say a lot. I would absolutely say sporadic. I mean, we do have a city of Los Angeles of 4 million people, a county of close to 11 million people. So it is a relatively small fraction of the people who first are protesting, and even a smaller fraction of those people who are committing these illegal acts. But that being said, the damage that even a small group of people can do, whether it's dumping concrete onto freeways, throwing fireworks and lighting commercial-grade fireworks and shooting them off at law enforcement, running motorcycles into a law enforcement line. It doesn't take a lot of people to create an enormous amount of havoc. So the warning shot is to basically all these folks out there that are even thinking about doing these actions. We are going to enforce the law, so please do not be surprised when we do.
What do you make of the deployment of 500 to 700 Marines that this is just happening now late on Monday to be sent from further south in California up to the Los Angeles area?
You know, we have not seen the large-scale civil unrest that you would think needs 2,000 National Guards and 500 or 700 additional soldiers. We recently, in the wildfires, were very thankful when the National Guard was called in by the governor and were patrolling our streets as the police were stretched to their limits in actually going ahead and maintaining safety in various areas around wildfire areas around Los Angeles County. So this is a much more confined exercise. The police, and again, we have tens of thousands of law enforcement officers here in Los Angeles County that the police and the sheriff can tap into. Whether or not the civil unrest goes beyond their capacity remains to be seen.
But you're seeing no signs of that right now?
Right now, we're not seeing signs that it's going beyond the capacity of the tens of thousands of law enforcement officers we have in Los Angeles County right now.
So do you think it was unnecessary to send in the National Guard and to send in the Marines?
You know, it's a preemptive move, and it's a move, again, that was designed to protect federal property, and the federal government can make its decisions to protect its own property. As far as going ahead and protecting the rest of Los Angeles, that's what the LAPD, the LA Sheriff's Department, and 45 local police departments around the county are in charge of. They, like I said, they can bring tens of thousands of law enforcement officers to this task if you need that type of rollout. Right now, we're not seeing that type of civil unrest, and I certainly hope we don't see it in the future.
Governor Newsom says Trump is exacerbating and inflaming the situation. President Trump says LA would be, quote, obliterated if he didn't send in the National Guard and the Marines.
So I'm not going to get in the middle of a political dispute. I have a job to do. And my job is to prosecute the cases that law enforcement is going to bring us of people who are using this opportunity for legitimate protest for their own illegal purposes. That'll be the job of the DA, and that's the job I intend to do.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.